Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Political Connections. I'm Holly Gregory. Our top story tonight: as opposition grows, the work has already started at Alcatraz. Crews continue to bring in resources from trailers and temporary shelters to lighting and porta potties as the state works to set up the temporary immigration detention facility. That work is happening at a little-used airstrip within the Everglades in Collier County. Under a 2023 executive order from Governor Ron DeSantis, which declared a state of emergency related to illegal immigration, that's how they are doing this. The move has prompted some split reactions, with conservation groups and some Democrats concerned about the impacts, including to the environment. The land was historically that of the Miccosukee tribe, which has issued its own opposition to this plan, with its chairman saying, quote, "Rather than Miccosukee homelands being an uninhabited wasteland for alligators and pythons, as some have suggested, the Big Cypress is the tribe's traditional homelands. The landscape has protected the Miccosukee and Seminole people for generations." He went on to suggest that the state would save taxpayer money by building this detention facility elsewhere. And our Jason Delgado's been following this. He has more now. Jason, the governor talked today about why he backs the plan, and in fact, he wants to expand it even further, it sounds like.
Yeah, Holly, this is essentially Florida doubling down on its efforts to help the federal government both house and then ultimately deport undocumented migrants. Now, today, Governor Ron DeSantis announced plans to build a second detention facility and named Camp Blanding as a potential spot. By the way, Camp Blanding is in north central Florida. So far, the state has not announced any official plans. However, Governor Ron DeSantis did say that this project is probably going to look a lot like the South Florida site that you see here. If so, that would mean Florida could house an additional 5,000 migrants. Today, DeSantis highlighted the state's support for President Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration.
We had a request from the federal government to do it, and so Alcatraz it is. And so you will see that be done. You will have, it'll be a force multiplier. It'll help DHS. It'll help our state and local law enforcement with relieving some burden on resources. We'll probably also do something similar up at Camp Blanding, which is where our National Guard headquarters to train there. We have some capacity there.
Now, Governor DeSantis said that we can expect an announcement about Camp Blanding here in the near future. Meanwhile, Alcatraz way down in the Everglades, it's expected to go live within 30 to 60 days. And Holly, for both sites, the state is vowing to the public that it won't negatively impact the environment. Holly.
And as we mentioned, there are some significant concerns about the environmental impact of this Alcatraz idea. And for more on that, I want to bring in one of the people voicing those concerns. Javier Estevez is the political and legislative director for the Sierra Club of Florida. Thanks so much for being back with us, Javier. We've had you on the show before to talk about environmental issues, and now this is a big one that has popped up on your radar. My question to start with is, how long have you been aware of this possibility in the Everglades with this idea, and what are the major issues as you see it that the Sierra Club has with it?
Yeah, so the idea of this came up just about a week ago, but it's really been building up speed this last week. We just want to be clear. This proposal is not only deeply inhumane, but it is profoundly irresponsible from an environmental, ethical, and fiscal standpoint. The Everglades is a unique and fragile ecosystem, home to countless endangered species, a vital source of drinking water for more than 9 million Floridians. To pave over a portion of this irreplaceable landscape for a high-security prison or detention center is nothing short of ecological vandalism.
Well, they say, state officials, that they're not going to pave over anything. The airstrip is already there. They say they're not going to cut down vegetation, and any infrastructure that they put on there is going to be, temporary, so that when their mission is over, it's all going to go away. So if it's all temporary and they're not going to disturb any vegetation, as they claim, would it have an environmental impact?
So for Governor DeSantis and Attorney General Uthmeier to dismiss the serious environmental concerns about the Alcatraz detention site is completely wrong. The Everglades is not a staging area for mobile infrastructure. It is a fragile and irreplaceable ecosystem that is central to the health, heritage, and future of Florida. Even temporary installations can have long-lasting impacts, introducing pollution, disrupting water flows, and threatening endangered species and habitats that recovery efforts have worked hard to protect. This governor has repeatedly claimed to be the defender of the Everglades. Now it's the moment for him to prove it.
They are already working very quickly on this. They want this to be up and running in perhaps 30 days, 30 to 60 days. We've already seen the trucks moving in. You know, it's a go already. So do you see any slowing it down? And, you know, do you have any recourse?
So our organization, along with several other organizations in Florida, are looking for ways that we can slow this down. Not only is this irreprehensible and a horrible decision, but we're also talking about the fact that they are taking this land from Miami-Dade County, which are the ones that are owning it. And the mayor of Miami-Dade County, Daniela Levine Cava, has even come out and said, hey, slow down. This is going a little bit too fast. So not only are you stopping to really follow the procedures that need to be followed, but you're also not looking at the environmental impacts that might come from even a temporary installation. And we are 100% dead set on saying that the Everglades is for conservation and nothing else. Even multiple counties around the Everglades have urban development boundary lines where they say you cannot develop past this line because it is the Everglades. And people bipartisanly across the aisle, elected officials in the legislature, always stand up and say that they want to protect the Florida Everglades. We want to see them protecting the Florida Everglades now.
We have already seen some protests out there, a couple hundred people over the weekend, and this was all just sort of, you know, becoming known at that point, protesting about it. But aside from making your voice heard and saying what you think about it and maybe some protests out there, is there any legal path or is there anything else, you know, to put up, you know, the resistance to this from your point of view?
So for legal recourse, we're still looking into that. The one thing I will tell people in the state of Florida, if we have seen it 100 times, we know that it is true. We saw it last summer when Governor DeSantis wanted to develop inside of our state parks. We saw Floridians from all parts of the state come out and speak out and say that our protected lands in the state of Florida need to be protected. We need you to do the same thing now. It doesn't matter if it's state parks or the Everglades. We cannot encroach in these habitats. And to top it off, immigration policy should not be dictated by spectacle or fear-mongering. Detaining human beings, many of whom are fleeing violence, poverty, and oppression in the Everglades is both logistically impractical and morally indefensible.
Javier Estevez with the Sierra Club Florida. I've got to leave it at that, but appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, and let's keep this fight going.
I mentioned earlier that the land in question lies within Collier County. It should be noted, though, that the airstrip involved is actually managed by Miami-Dade County. Nevertheless, Collier County leaders discussed the plan at length during yesterday's meeting, with some concerns over how quickly this all seems to have come together in the Everglades.
I had no visibility on this whatsoever. I actually it was requested by a reporter. I heard a Congressman Byron Donalds on the radio. He wasn't aware of it and really thought it was a pipe dream of somebody. And now we're all learning that this isn't a pipe dream.
I have to be careful about not biting the hand that feeds me, but I too am disappointed in the absence of a courtesy call on this.
There was another concern that county commissioners highlighted yesterday: what happens in the event of a hurricane?
It might be a big chunk of empty land out there, and maybe somebody was salivating, thinking they can do something with it, but sitting here in the middle of hurricane season, I sure would hate to see this plop in our lap, that 1,000 detainees that were sitting in tents now need food, shelter, transportation, and all that. And it's also in the middle of of an environmentally sensitive, environmentally impacted area. I realize they use it for touch and goes and whatnot, but that surrounding area. But I would expect, no question, Dan, you're the guy that's going to relay that to everyone. And I'm sure they've put some thought into that. But I don't, like you always say, I don't want them to think that we're a love boat when it comes to hurricanes, that we could be a lifeboat in time of emergency, but it could be a big ask if a hurricane Ian or Irma or a Katrina came through here and we had people out in the boondocks there in serious, jeopardy.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage. And click the subscribe button here. You can also download our app and watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.